Most plants don't fail in Vancouver. They're just planted in the wrong way. I watch the same pattern repeat. People walk into the garden center and everything looks perfect. Rhododendrons in full color, lavender smelling amazing, Pieris just starting to bloom. It's hard not to get excited. So you pick a few plants, bring them home, plant them, water them, and for a moment, it feels like progress. Like the garden is finally coming back to life. But then, a few weeks pass, something doesn't feel quite right. The plant isn't settling, leaves start to look tired, growth slows down, and by summer, you're not sure what went wrong. By next spring, it's either struggling or completely gone. And if you've been through that, this happens more often than you think. I see it every single year. But here's what I want you to understand. It's usually not the plant. Because the plants people are choosing, rhododendrons, boxwood, Pieris, lavender, these are all actually some of the most reliable plants for this region. They've been grown for this climate, they're meant to work here. So when they don't, there's usually something else going on. And after working in Vancouver gardens for 25 years, I've noticed is this. Most plants don't fail because they're difficult, they fail because of what happens in the first 10 minutes after planting. Before the roots even have a chance to adjust, before the plant has time to settle, that's where things go wrong. And the tricky part is, it doesn't look like a mistake at the time. It feels like you're doing the right thing, but small details in how you plant, how you prepare the soil, how you plant the plant in the space, those are the things that decide whether it thrives or slowly declines. So today, I want to show you a different way to think about planting, not just what to plant, but how to set it up properly from the beginning. Because once you get that part right, everything becomes easier after, and the plants you choose actually have a chance to do what they're meant to do. Your plant is always telling you something most people just don't hear. I've been working with Vancouver soil for a long time, and if you've gardened here, you already know. It's not the easiest environment. Heavy clay, long wet winters, cold, slow springs, and early on, I made the same mistakes most people make. Trying to fix things quickly, trying to control the outcome, adding more soil, more water, more products, thinking that would solve the problem. But over time, you start to notice something different. Plants don't fail randomly, they respond every time. If something isn't right, they show it. Not all at once, but slowly, subtle changes, losing strength, growth stalling, color shifting, and most of the time we miss those signals because we're looking for a quick answer. What should I add? What should I change? But plants don't work that way. They're reacting to their environment. Too much water sitting in the soil, roots that can't move, light that doesn't match what they need. It's not one big mistake. It's a combination of small conditions that build up over time. So instead of trying to control everything, I start paying attention, watching how plants respond, learning to read those small signs early. And once you understand that, gardening becomes very different. You're not guessing anymore. You're not repeating the same cycle. You're adjusting based on what the plant is telling you, because every plant is communicating. The question is, are you noticing it? Or are you missing it and doing the same thing again next season?
If your plants keep failing in Vancouver, and it usually comes down to just three things. When I walk through gardens that aren't working, I don't usually see bad plants. I see the same patterns over and over again. And almost every time it comes down to three things: timing, placement, and soil.
Let's start with timing and soil, because here April can be a bit misleading. It looks like spring, but the ground is still holding a lot of moisture, still cold underneath. So if you plant straight into that, some plants will struggle to settle. Not because they don't belong here, but because the timing and soil aren't quite for them yet. Plants like lavender, rosemary, and even some Mediterranean herbs, they actually do really well in Vancouver, but they need one thing: good drainage. They need air around the roots, so if your soil is heavy, you don't avoid those plants. You just adjust the setup. Raise them slightly, loosen the soil, improve drainage, and suddenly they establish properly. Same plant, completely different results. Now, let's look at placement. Take something like a camellia or magnolia. Great plants for the climate, but where you put them matters more than people think. A lot of people place them where they get early morning sun, and that sounds like a good idea, but here, after a cold night, the quick hit of sun on frozen buds can damage the flowers. They drop before opening, so again, it's not the plant failing, it's just not in the right position. A small shift in placement can make a big difference. And the third one is stress. Plants like boxwood, very strong, very reliable, but when conditions aren't right, too wet, poor airflow, or pruning at the wrong time, they become vulnerable. And that's when problems start to show. Not because the plant is weak, but because it's under pressure. So when something isn't working, don't just jump straight to replacing the plant. Take a step back. Look at these three things: timing, placement, soil. Because once those are aligned, most plants you see in garden centers here actually do very well. And that's when gardening starts to feel a lot simpler.
The plant isn't the problem, it's the way we're planting it. Now, I want to be really clear about this. I'm not saying don't buy these plants. You absolutely should, because most of the plants you see here, lavender, camellia, boxwood, they all belong in a Vancouver garden. They work here. I've seen them thrive for years, but the difference is not the plant, it's the setup.
So instead of asking, what should I plant? Start asking a different question. What does this plant need? And does my space match it? And if it doesn't, you adjust the environment, not the plant. Take something like lavender. Beautiful, low maintenance once it's established, but it doesn't like sitting in heavy, wet soil. So instead of just planting straight in, you change the setup. You loosen the drainage, you improve the area. Sometimes you even raise it slightly above the ground, and that small adjustment makes all the difference. Or take camellia. Great structure, reliable year-round, but it doesn't like exposure. Too much wind, too much direct stress, and it struggles. So you think about protection near a wall, near a hedge, somewhere where it can settle without being hit from all sides. And one thing I do quite often, if I'm not completely sure about the placement, I don't rush. I leave the plant in the pot, move it around, I watch how the light changes during the day, I see how the space feels, because once you plant it, it's much harder to correct. And in this shift, you're not just putting plants into the ground, you're creating the right conditions for them to succeed. And when you start thinking like that, you stop guessing. You stop replacing plants every season, and you start building a garden that actually settles in and gets better over time.
You don't need more plants, you just need to make better decisions at the start. One approach I use all the time is actually very simple. I think more like a nursery, not in a rush, not trying to force everything into the ground right away, just giving plants the best chance to settle first.
So if I'm not confident about the soil yet, or I'm unsure what the exact spot, I don't plant it straight away. I leave it in the pot, I let it establish slowly, I water properly, I observe how it responds, and at the same time I keep learning about the space. How wet it stays, how much light it actually gets, how exposed it is. Then, when everything feels right, that's when I plant it. Because planting is not the beginning, it's a commitment. And once it's in the ground, your options become limited. So slowing down at the stage actually saves you time later. And the key here is this. You're not trying to push the plant to grow quickly, you're helping it settle properly, because when a plant establishes well early on, everything after becomes easier. Less stress, less maintenance, fewer problems showing up later. So instead of thinking I need more plants to make this look better, take a step back and make a few better decisions at the beginning, and you'll find you actually need less, but get much better results. Everyone has that one plant that just never seems to work.
Now, some people might look at this and think, that feels like a lot. I just want to plant it and move on. And honestly, that's okay. Sometimes things still grow. Nature can be very forgiving.
But if you've ever felt like you're doing the same thing year after year, buying the same plants, planting them the same way, and getting the same results, that's where it starts to feel frustrating. replacing plants again, spending more money, not really understanding what went wrong, and that's usually the point where something needs to shift. Not the plant, but the approach. So, let me ask you something. What's that one plant for you, the one that just doesn't seem to work, no matter how many times you try? Maybe it's lavender that keeps struggling in the soil, maybe it's a rhododendron that never really settles in, or maybe it's something completely different. Drop it in the comments. Just keep it simple, tell me what didn't work, or even what you've tried already, and if you see it directly or differently, that's fine too. I'm always interested in how people experience their gardens. So, I'll go through everything, and I'll pick out the most common patterns and break them down in the next videos. So we're not just talking about gardening, we're actually figuring it out together. One garden at a time.
I'm Darrell, and I'll see you out there.